everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm delighted to be joined by Lewis, who is, of course, a Manchester City fan, to get his thoughts on everything City, his thoughts on West Ham, and a look ahead to tomorrow's game at the London Stadium. Lewis, first of all, thank you very much for joining me. Secondly, look, busy. Look, I think we're still in that period where we can still discuss the transfer window. We're not too far away from it just yet. So a lot of high-profile players leaving and arriving at the Etihad. What did you make of your business?
Well, it was a bit of a roller coaster of a transfer window for us. Of course, lost Gundogan, which was a free transfer out of contract, and it seems like we messed up there. From his comments that he made about 2 weeks ago, I think City started negotiations too late. By which point Barcelona had already been in touch. He was happy with the contract they offered, and I think he basically gave the okay to Barcelona. So he ended up leaving. We was in the mix for Jude Bellingham. That was a long transfer. I think we put a lot of eggs in the basket of Jude Bellingham. He turned us down to go to Real Madrid. By that point, I think Rice had already said yes to Arsenal. So we were sort of a bit compromised on that one. Maddison, who I know that we was interested as well, had already given his okay to Tottenham. Lucas Paquetta, we finally get a deal done there, and then he's been investigated for gambling. So we've had a bit of a topsy-turvy one. However, you look at the business overall as a generic picture. You look at Kovacic coming in 25 million. I think he will be at least in the top three signings of the season at the end of the year, providing he can stay fit, because £25 million for a guy of his experience is just ridiculous. And his class as well, he's absolutely quality. We've got Gvardiol in, obviously very promising young centre-back, can play left-back, can play left-sided of a three, can play on the left of a back four in the middle. So he's obviously very, very promising. And, you know, a lot of people in Germany are saying that he's going to be one of the best centre-backs in the world in a few years, if not now. So that's really exciting. And then, of course, probably our most unknown, but therefore maybe most exciting signings is Jeremy Doku, who, I don't know if we'll get into it, might play against West Ham tomorrow. He's come in for about £45 million. It's expensive money for a guy who's not really played too much football. By all accounts, City have been tracking him for a number of years, since 2017. So he was very young since he's been on City's radar. And that was probably something that we lacked last year a little bit. I know we went and won the treble, but if you did say one thing that we did lack last year, it was pace on the wings. We had Mahrez, Bernardo and Grealish, not exactly fast wingers. So overall, a pretty decent transfer window. I probably would have wanted one more. Obviously, we got Nunez in. We've not really seen too much of him. I would have wanted one more sort of versatile player that can play across sort of the attacking midfield or sort of wing positions, because we are very light in the wing positions. But overall, very strong window. I'll probably give it like a 9 out of 10. Pretty happy with it, to be honest.
Happy, understandably, as well. 4 wins out of 4 for you so far. Has it been as easy as it looks on paper?
Yes and no. I thought the first game against Burnley were exceptional. Now I know Burnley haven't had the greatest start to the season, so how much can you sort of read into that? I don't know, but we looked very sharp. It wasn't necessarily the scoreline. I think we won 3-0 or something, but it wasn't even necessarily the scoreline. It was the way we was moving the ball very, very quick, which was good to see. You know, typically you can be a little bit rusty in the first couple of games of the season. We looked decent. Even like Sheffield United, where we only won 2-1, we created a shed load of opportunities. And another day, if Haaland had his shooting boots on, we would have won that 5-1, just like we did against Fulham. So, I mean, I'm actually really impressed with how we started. I was a little bit worried that maybe we would start slow. And one thing that I've said since before the season started is I don't think City can have a year this year where we start slow, because we've got we had the Super Cup, which is an extra game. And we've got the Club World Cup in December in Saudi Arabia, which is only like two or three games. In fact, I think it's 2 games that we'll be playing. But it's the traveling, it's 6-7 hours to Saudi Arabia. It's the staying back, it's coming back and then catching up. So I think it's really, really crucial that City do get off to a good start. We've got a horrendous fixture list in October and November, literally no easy games at all. So we had to have a good start. So far, so good.
This is going to be a bit of a weird question, but as a West Ham fan, I don't think I'm ever going to be in the position to answer this. But it's sort of like, what's your expectation now? Because you've sort of finally done it. You've won the Champions League, but not only have you won it alongside the Premier League and the FA Cup. So it almost feels like, I know you've just spoken about, you've got the Super Cup and the Club World Cup this season. So I suppose that sort of makes this year a little bit different. But What's the expectation now as a City fan? What are you hoping to achieve? Because it almost feels like you've completed football to some extent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I'm pretty clear in my position on this. I think Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the world, and I think when he retires, he might even be considered the best manager of all time. I think he's that good. I've seen him manage Barcelona. That team back then was absolutely incredible, and still to this day, in my opinion, the best football team that I've ever seen live. It was a fantastic team. And then obviously at City, what he's done is absolutely remarkable against a lot of scrutiny. Remember when he first joined Manchester City, we had the likes of Gary Neville and that telling us that his football won't work and all this kind of stuff. Well, he's proved everybody wrong. I'm quite clear that whilst you've got Pep Guardiola, you have to demand trophies. You have to demand success, because I know for a fact, I'm not an idiot, when he leaves, we will see a dip in performances. We will see a lower trophy count. So you have to try and win as much. You can't take anything for granted. You have to go again. You have to, every single competition that you enter, whether it's the Carabao Cup, the FA, Premier League, or the Champions League, or even the Club World Cup that we're in, you have to take it seriously. And yes, obviously, some trophies have more prestige than others, of course. But you want to get as many trophies as possible. And some people might say, is it sort of like a greedy thing? Yes, it is. But of course, it's a greedy thing. You've got Pep Guardiola. You don't get Pep Guardiola in to win a Carabao Cup a year. Now, listen, that would obviously be good. And I remember watching City when we were shit. But fundamentally, we are a different team now. And I just know for a fact that when he leaves, we'll be a different club again. You know what I mean? So you have to try and win as much stuff as possible. So as daft as it sounds, the goal for this season is to win all the trophies. That is the goal. We have the best squad in the Premier League, in my opinion. You got some fantastic players there. I think now we've got that issue of the Champions League off our backs, which, let's be honest, the only reason we'd not won the Champions League for so long is because we'd not won the Champions League for so long. We were getting to semi-finals and finals and just doing completely stupid stuff. We got to the final against Chelsea. Chelsea weren't better than us on paper, but Pep Guardiola overthinks it. We lose the game. We go to the Bernabeu with 2-3 goals advantage, with 3 minutes away from going to another final. The team just crumbles. It was the pressure of not winning the Champions League that's stopping us from winning. Now we've won it, we've got over the line. There is a potential that we might go on and win it again. Like Real Madrid won three in a row. There's nothing to say City couldn't do that. So the expectation with this current set of players and this manager has to be to win as much as possible. And whilst you've got the manager, that has to be the goal. So yeah, win everything basically.
Love that. I love that. Well, let's have a little bit of fun then. What do you think you'll win? I know it's early in the season. There's not enough evidence, but just for a little bit of fun, what are you expecting City to have in the trophy cabinet come May?
I think we'll win the Premier League. I know it's only early, you know what I mean? And whenever we do these videos, you have to go, I know it's only 4 games played, but based on what I've seen, I don't think that Arsenal have improved their team. I look at the way that they're playing, and can you honestly say that Arsenal have improved based on the 4 games that you've seen so far? No, I don't think so. You could argue that they've potentially got worse. I think Man United have regressed. I think they'll be lucky to get inside the top 4. Chelsea are clearly nowhere near. And Liverpool are the ones where I was like, they could potentially be up there. I just feel that because they've not got a proper defensive midfield player in, that will hurt them over the course of the 38 games. But their attack is seriously frightening, and maybe they'll get away with not having that proper number 6 because of how good their attack is. So I do think we'll win the Premier League. I don't think there's any reason why we can't win the Champions League again. I think if we can keep our players fit, De Bruyne, Haaland, and Ruben Diaz probably and Rodri, of course, that sort of core in your team, there's no reason why we can't go win that again. The other 2 domestic cups, I think, depends on the draw. Sometimes Pep does rotate, especially when we get towards the quarterfinals and the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Pep likes to rotate because that FA Cup semi-final comes around, I think, the semi-final or the quarterfinal of the Champions League. So it's not the best time. And of course, if you're having a big Premier League push as well, he does normally rotate. So listen, I think Premier League, I think we'll win the Premier League again. The others, they're cup competitions. Anything can happen. You need a little bit of luck. But I think we're going to be in for another good season.
Well, last thing about your team before we discuss mine. Which players have started the season well? Give us 2 or 3 names. I say to look out for. We all know about your players, but who's in form for City so far?
Haaland, of course, has started well again. And you'll remember him because he scored 2 goals in the first game against you last season, a penalty and a nice left foot finish. He started well. He's just a goal machine. He's unbelievable. And one thing that I'd say to maybe some West Ham fans who've obviously don't really watch much of
Yeah.
Manchester City because they watch. One thing that I'd really advise you to watch is his movement inside the penalty area is frightening. It's when like you watch strikers when they get a little bit older, maybe they enter the 30s. I'm talking the likes of Benzema, and they lose a little bit of pace, and they have to then start to rely on their football intelligence, being in the right areas at the right time. We've seen it with so many players over the years when they get a little bit older. He seems to already have that sort of movement inside the penalty area now. Like it's honestly frightening. I noticed it like straight away as soon as we signed him. It was ridiculous, and he's obviously got the pace to go with it. Not that we really utilize that much because we don't really counter attack. But Haaland started well. Kovacic, unfortunately, is going to miss the game. He started really, really well as well. Rodri, of course, is ever present in our team, and it's just by far the best defensive midfielder in world football, in my opinion. Is that good? And then the other ones, yeah, just like sort of the standard players. Ruben Diaz, Edison started well. So, but yeah, obviously Haaland is the main one. He's just a goal machine.
Right, we're going to discuss West Ham in just a second, but if you're enjoying this video, please do drop a like, and also head over to Lewis's channel. Obviously, he will discuss the Man City stuff over there, but you want to get his thoughts after the game, you can do that. The link to Lewis's channel is in the description below, and his latest video will be on your screen at the end of this one. But what's your thoughts on West Ham, please, Lewis?
What's my thoughts on West Ham? Okay. I thought last season was a bit of a weird season. Obviously, league form was a disaster, but sometimes that just fucking happens in football, mate. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just have a terrible year and nothing that you do, whether it be tactical changes, whether it be resting players, taking players out, whatever. Sometimes it just ain't going to go for you, mate. Ultimately, were West Ham that bad where they deserve to be down at the bottom of the table where they were for all year, based on the players that they had? No. Okay, so I looked at it and like it looking like a bit of a freak season because the players that you have, they shouldn't be near the bottom where they were. So there was no real surprise to me that you had a pretty decent Conference League campaign because, you know, that maybe took a little bit of pressure off. You was going into a tournament where you wasn't constantly thinking about 3 points and the need to stave off sort of relegation battle. You was in a fresh competition. Obviously, had a great ending to the year. Obviously, staying in the division and winning the Conference League was amazing. A European trophy. You know, you can sort of lord that over some of your London rivals. I'm sure you have done already.
We have.
So I was quite. I heard a lot of people in the summer sort of play down West Ham's chances this year, and I was complete opposite. Really, I thought that the negativity surrounding West Ham was not real. I didn't go along with it because, like I say, I didn't think that last year was a year in the division where it was going to be repeated. I did think it was a freak season. I thought the loss of Rice was obviously going to hurt you, but you know, if you get a couple of players in, you know, I think that I don't know how to say this without sounding bad, but like I don't feel the loss of Rice is going to affect you as much as people think. I just don't think. Clearly he's a good player. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I just think that you can replace him. Not maybe in a like for like, but you can replace him in players that you bought. And of course, you bought Alvarez looking decent. You've got Ward-Prowse, good signing for the money. So I think you're gonna have a good season, man. I think that you should be aiming for sort of mid-table, in my view, this year. I think that is a realistic expectation. And have a good go again at the Europa League. Look, obviously, it's going to be harder this year. You're in a tougher competition with bigger and better teams that were in the Conference League. But hell, man, like you've won the Conference League. No one really thought that you could do that last year. Go and win the Europa League and bring that one home as well. So I think you should be positive. I know obviously style of play is an issue at West Ham with Moyes, but the way I see it is you've got him as your manager, and until he goes, until you get a new manager in, you know, it is what it is. Deal with it. You know what I mean? So try and enjoy the season. I think West Ham are going to be in for a decent year. I think mid-table should be the expectation, and have a good go at one of the domestic competitions, whether it be the FA Cup or Carabao, and give your all in that Europa League. Because if you can get to another final, get to a semi-final of that Europa League, you know, because there's some big teams in that Europa League, and of course you get the third place dropouts of the Champions League, and there's always usually a shock exit in the Champions League. You know, West Ham could be playing a Barcelona, a Dortmund, a Juventus, or not Juventus, because I don't think they're in it anymore. But you know, like a massive team, and that would be amazing to get one of the big clubs back to the London Stadium. So I think be positive. I know the style of play can wind up some fans, but at the end of the day, you can't do nothing about it, and you've got that style until Moyes comes. So optimism would be what I'd be saying.
I love that. Well, one player in particular might have his chest puffed out tomorrow is Lucas Paquetta. Were you wanting him at the Etihad when you were linked to him? Is that someone you thought would make a difference?
You know what it was, right? So at first, I was like, I don't know about this guy. But that's because we've come off the back of potentially looking at someone like a Jude Bellingham, who we all know now is going to be a Ballon d'Or winner at some point. So I was a little bit like just on the come down, not really happy for it. But after a couple of days, I was really excited. I was doing a lot of sort of YouTube compilations. You know, I watched the game against Bournemouth, and I was like, really excited for it, and then of course it all fell apart. So yeah, disappointed in the end. I would have actually preferred to get him than Nunes, to be honest with you. I know it would have cost more, but I would have preferred it.
Any other West Ham players you admire?
Admire in terms in terms of admire, probably I wouldn't have him at City, but I like Antonio. I think Antonio's maybe a misunderstood footballer. I think because of how big he is, people sort of don't rate how maybe technically good he is. I think, you know, some of his finishing is top class. It's out of this world, some of his finishing. So I think that sometimes because of how big he is and how muscular he is, I don't think people really rate how good his finishing is. I think it's really good. Bowen is a great player, but seems to be a little bit inconsistent at times. Yeah, I think Antonio for me is a misunderstood player. I think he is.
Misunderstood. What a description that is. I think unpredictable is the word I like to use for Antonio, but misunderstood and unpredictable is a good description for him. Tomorrow afternoon then at the London Stadium, how do you see the game going?
Well, it's difficult because I think with it being at the London Stadium, how sort of defensive can West Ham be? You know, are they going to sit on the edge of the penalty area with 6 players and a couple players in front of that and really sort of just defend for their lives, like when they're at the London Stadium, 55, 60,000, whatever it is. You know, I don't know. I think it would have been easy, maybe easier for you if you was at the Etihad, because then you could sort of play that sort of performance or whatever you wanted to do. I do think City will probably end up dominating the football. I don't think that would come as any sort of surprise. And it's just about what we can do with it. You know, we've not got De Bruyne, we've not got Kovacic, and we're probably going to have maybe Bernardo and Alvarez in the middle, which aren't the best creative players in the world. They're very energetic and they run around a lot, but in terms of creativity, not really too much there. So I think the wings are going to be key for us. Obviously, Jeremy Doku's likely to play because Grealish, I think, is injured for the game, and Foden on the right-hand side because Bernardo will probably play in the middle. So yeah, I think we'll dominate the ball. Could be boring at times if we can't break through and we're just sort of knocking against a brick wall. So, but I think in the end, I would be surprised if we didn't create 1 or 2 opportunities in 90 minutes, and that's all you need for Haaland. So I do think we'll take the win. I don't think we'll smash it like 4 or 5-0, but I do think we'll find a way through in the end. For you guys, what I'm looking at from a sort of West Ham point of view is if you do go into sort of a really defensive setup, which I imagine you probably will do. I imagine, like what's your out ball? Is it going to be over the top for Antonio to chase? How long can you do that before sort of he gets stressed and you just keep on giving the ball back to us? So I think West Ham are going to have to be super patient tomorrow. I think the deliveries in behind the defence or down the channels from Ward-Prowse are going to have to be on point. And any set pieces that West Ham are going to get, they've got to be good deliveries, which they probably will be if it's Ward-Prowse. And you've got to try and take your advantage. So I do think in the end we will come away with the win, but I'm predicting a very tricky game. Very tricky game.
Well, crystal ball time. What's your score prediction?
I don't know, man. I think maybe like 2-0, 2-1. I don't something.
You're not sounding too confident here.
No, well, should I be? I mean, West Ham have had a great start to the season. You beat Chelsea. I know Chelsea are not that great, but you beat Chelsea. You beat Brighton. I think optimism at West Ham right now is looking good. I think you made some good signings. Morale seems to be a lot higher now than it was maybe 4 weeks ago when you'd not signed any players, or maybe a little bit longer than that actually. But ultimately, Moyes, I think he's a good manager, and I think these type of games, he knows what he's doing. You know, he's not naive. Like we used to play against like Bournemouth with Eddie Howe, right? And we'd play Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and he'd play open football. It'd be great to watch. Like but we'd beat him 4-5-0 every game. You know what I mean? Because he try and Moyes isn't an idiot. Moyes will have a plan tomorrow of trying to stop Manchester City, trying to stop us getting balls into the penalty area. And fundamentally, you've got good players. You know, you've got Zuma, Aguerd in the box who are very good. I think Alvarez, I'm really looking forward to seeing Alvarez play. And Ward-Prowse to put the balls in behind set pieces. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think any City fan that thinks this is going to be easy is living in cuckoo land.
You're making me optimistic for the game, but Lewis, thank you, massively appreciate that. Of you guys at home, if you've enjoyed it, please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the New Timers chat, but also head over to It's LB as well. His latest video will be on your screen in just a few seconds. We'll catch you in a bit.